Welcome to today's Explainer. We're diving straight into a deeply personal and honestly, a pretty invisible world for a lot of people, the day-to-day realities of care dynamics. We're going to look closely at some firsthand accounts that really pull back the curtain on the complex relationship between individuals receiving care and the support staff who provide it. At the very core of today's Explainer is a massive point of tension that exists in almost every professional caregiving setup. It's that friction between a client's continuous 24/7 need for emotional safety and the absolute necessity for support staff to set and maintain strict personal boundaries. We are going to explore exactly why those boundaries are so crucial to set and how they actually impact the people living on both sides of the care equation. Now listen to the sheer vulnerability in these words. This firsthand account uses the phrase comfort blanket, and that is literally spot on. When you're dealing with severe daily anxiety, the ability to instantly reach out to your support staff and get a reply is incredibly soothing. It creates this vital safety net. But when staff are off shift and absolutely cannot reply, well, that net just vanishes. The client here notes feeling a profound loss of control over the people who care about them. It perfectly frames the emotional stakes we're talking about today. You see, it's not just about unanswered text messages. It's about that very real sinking feeling of losing your anchor when your anxiety is at its peak. Let's kick things off with Section 1, the need for connection and digital comfort. To truly grasp this dynamic, we've got to look at it from the client's perspective. For the author of our source material, sending messages isn't just about passing the time or making small talk. It is a highly active coping mechanism. Constant messaging genuinely helps them manage their mental health and navigate that daily anxiety. Even the smallest digital gestures, we're talking a quick text response or literally just a simple emoji, bring genuine happiness and relief. It provides a real sense of security. The client will actually keep sending messages just knowing the staff's phones are going to vibrate and they'll eventually see them when they catch up on their next shift. It's a digital tether to the outside world, you know? It's a way of affirming that they are not alone in this. Which brings us right into Section 2, the reality of boundaries, and the simple fact that staff need a life. This central conflict becomes incredibly stark when we compare these two totally different timelines. Anxiety doesn't just punch a clock and operate on a 9-to-5 schedule, so the client's need for support is always on, 24/7. But on the flip side, support staff are doing a wildly demanding job, both physically and emotionally. As the client actually openly acknowledges, staff have a life outside of their shifts. They absolutely must draw a strict boundary and completely disconnect when they're off shift to avoid burnout and maintain their own mental health. They can only pick up their phones and reply when they are actively working. It's a completely necessary boundary to prevent emotional exhaustion, even if it directly clashes with the client's need for that continuous comfort blanket we talked about earlier. To really understand the scale of this, just think about the sheer logistics of a daily roster. We aren't just talking about a relationship with one single caregiver here. The client is interacting with a complex, rotating cast of professionals. In the daytime alone, the rotation might include Haley B., Tina, Chris, Greg, Blessing, or Debbie, plus an entirely different system for the night on-call support. Imagine trying to build a consistent emotional safety net when the people physically holding the net are constantly tagging in and out. The sheer complexity of care is huge. The client has to constantly adjust to different personalities, entirely different communication styles, and varying shift schedules. It's no wonder that the strict enforcement of off-shift boundaries is so hard to digest. So let's shift gears a bit into Section 3, morning rhythms and routines, focusing on that crucial in-person care. The crucial point to remember here is that while off-shift digital boundaries can cause a lot of anxiety, these highly structured in-person routines actually help stabilize it. Let's walk through the timeline of the client, Phil's morning. It begins not with the support staff, but with Haley the cat giving a meow meow to demand food. Waking up early, Phil tries to get his shower done before the morning support team even arrives, wondering who from that big roster will be walking through the door today. Once they do arrive, the routine kicks into high gear with household chores and cleaning. This structured, reliable physical presence acts as a brilliant counterweight to the digital isolation he might have felt during the night. But, of course, those routines aren't always perfectly smooth, bringing us to Section 4, professional care versus nagging and family dynamics. Phil shares a super relatable, very human bit of friction here that comes with doing daily chores. We have the traditional source of household pressure, a mother coming around to nag about getting the cleaning done, which Phil notes gives him a headache. But right alongside that, we have the support staff. Phil admits that his support workers do the exact same thing. In fact, he says they are great at nagging, which makes his head hurt even more. It's a really candid look at how professional care often ends up mimicking family dynamics, causing the exact same everyday friction and annoyance. Yet, right after complaining about the headache-inducing nagging, Phil drops this absolute gem of a realization. They do it for my own good. This single quote entirely reframes the relationship. Whether it's his mother pushing him to clean or a support worker strictly enforcing hygiene and household routines, the underlying motivation is always his care and well-being. Even when the support staff are being super strict, whether that's by nagging about chores or by refusing to answer text messages when they're off shift, it is fundamentally rooted in maintaining a healthy, functional dynamic for his own good. And that leads us to our final part, Section 5, accepting the care dynamics and those immovable boundaries. Phil ultimately reaches this incredibly raw, unvarnished conclusion. After expressing deep frustration about staff not answering his messages and knowing full well that his other friends in the care system experienced the exact same problem, he arrives at a place of pure resignation. There is no way around it, so I have to put up or shut up. Man, that's a tough pill to swallow, right? He realizes he just cannot alter the structural reality of professional care work. Staff are only going to pick up their phones when they are actively on shift. The boundaries are immovable. And a big part of receiving long-term care is learning to accept the professional limits of the people you rely on the absolute most. So, we're going to wrap up today's explainer with a pretty massive question. How would we balance the deep emotional need for 24/7 comfort with the essential professional boundaries of care workers? As we've seen through Phil's firsthand accounts today, the line between professional support and personal connection is incredibly delicate. The client desperately needs that comfort blanket, but the caregiver absolutely has to be able to clock out and have a life to prevent burning out. Understanding both sides of this dynamic is absolutely crucial if we're going to build better, more empathetic support systems. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I'll leave you to think about how we navigate those vital yet undeniably difficult human boundaries.